people I'm sure have heard about this. Um, as you know, the Heritage Foundation, excuse me for 1 second.
Whoa.
Gesundheit.
Bless you.
Sorry about that.
Now you have to leave the office.
I know it. The Heritage Foundation has been working on a blueprint for Donald Trump's second presidency starting in 2025. In fact, they called it Project 2025. It was in the works for months, and we had been talking about it, been reported for months. It involved soliciting resumes from thousands of people so they could replace like 40,000 civil service workers in the government with political appointees. It had reams of documents, a 900-page document. It had all sorts of policy prescriptions that went beyond, getting rid of our civil service in the government. It involved things like abortion bans and getting rid of multiple agencies in our government, the Department of Education, a couple others. It talked about huge deregulatory actions to defang the FDA, the EPA. They obviously would have gone after the FTC. I mean, this was everything so that they could get a running start on all the horrible things that Donald Trump may have stumbled upon last time. Deport 13 million immigrants.
Right.
All the horrible things that Donald Trump stumbled upon last time, couldn't execute, didn't know how to approach. They were lining it all up. And then I think to a large extent, because people weren't able to promote Joe Biden in the way that they wanted to, you saw a lot more information about Project 2025, because the idea was like, people should be aware. Joe Biden might be, much older than you want him to be, but Donald Trump represents, and not just him, obviously the Republican Party, the conservative movement, represents a fundamental threat to the way our government functions. And then it became very toxic for the Trump people, and they pretended like they didn't know him. Well, here is video of Russell Vought. He is the former director of Office of Management and Budget under Donald Trump. He was one of the lead authors of the Project 2025. And I say was because it's already written. It's done. It's there
Just
on the
Google
shelf.
it.
They've collected the resumes. It's all, they are all set up. And two undercover British journalists, I believe from a climate
Center
group.
for Climate Reporting, which is a nonprofit, and they've been doing work in Europe, and particularly it's undercover reporting where they don't show their faces in interviews and things like that because they want to be able to infiltrate some of these right-wing circles and get true answers.
And the amazing thing is, it just goes to show you that when you're around Americans, if you put on a British accent, you get carte blanche.
Pretty much.
But here is Russell Vought, who was reported months ago as being one of the lead candidates for Donald Trump's chief of staff of his presidency. Here he is.
About Project 25. I haven't seen the document. I don't intend to really see the document.
But behind closed doors, Vought tells us not to take Trump's disavowal seriously.
I expected to hear 10 more times from the rally, the president, distancing himself from the left's boogeyman of Project 2025.
Yeah. And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
He's running against the brand. He is not running against any people.
Okay.
He is not running against any institutions. It's interesting. He's in fact not even opposing himself to a particular policy. Yeah. He's been at our organization. He's raised money for our organization. He's blessed it from the, I remember walking into our last day in office and told him what I was going to do. So he's very supportive of what we do.
Oh, yeah. In fact, all those judges he appointed to the bench, like lifetime appointments on the federal judiciary, guess where those lists came from? Heritage Foundation and Leonard Leo. They are the Heritage Foundation. I mean, anybody who's been following politics with any sort of like level, anything beyond surface level, is so intimately familiar with the Heritage Foundation They have
Right.
been around since the early 70s. They were designed in the wake of the Powell memo, which was a pushback against what the corporate America and the right wing in this country were starting to see from like emancipation movements, and the Heritage Foundation has been probably the primary think tank. I use that term loosely for Republicans and conservatives. Do we have any more of that footage? I mean, there's a lot more.
Here's a little bit more that goes into Heritage and how they're keeping it under wraps from a little bit later in their piece.
In Project 2025. They're not hard to find. The Heritage Foundation, the group running the project, are here. So is Vought's think tank. We make the acquaintance of Mika Meadowcroft, an author on Project 2025 and a close aide to Vought. He tells us that Vought is running the secretive second phase of Project 2025.
And the second phase, after the book came out, was to break down like actual sort of policy packets and like, executive orders and agenda items, things like that. That's been supervised largely by us.
The first phase of Project 2025 was a 922-page policy book published openly. The second phase is a comprehensive, concrete transition plan for each federal agency. These much more detailed plans are confidential.
Yeah.
Because obviously you want as little of it to be FOIA-able, if you're familiar with the FOIA process, as possible.
Freedom of Information Act, yeah.
The Freedom of Information Act allows the public to request government communications, but Meadowcroft reveals they plan to avoid these rules.
Yeah, the goal is, familiarize all the transition team people with these plans,
Yeah.
but you don't actually send them to their work emails, because then,
Right.
you could just give the handbooks to everyone, be like, this is the game plan for the admin.
Yeah.
But if the press knows that that's what you're doing, that they're going to immediately just say, I request all of your emails from Heritage.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's good. They are conspiring at Heritage to avoid any